Hello families, it's great to be here today for Families Matter, St. Lucie Public Schools Parenting Guide. We are excited to be your hosts. My name is Rebecca Benton. I'm a life skills parent educator with Student Services.
Hello again, families. I'm Dejan Jackson, Family and Community Outreach Administrator on special assignment for St. Lucie Public Schools. The focus of our show today is to discuss school transitions, voluntary kindergarten to kindergarten, 5th grade to middle school, and finally our middle schoolers heading off to high school.
The purpose of Families Matter, St. Lucie Public Schools Parenting Guide, is to give parents and families information about the resources found within our local community. The resources shared can be in the form of people connected to St. Lucie Public Schools, like school counselors, district support personnel, or educators on your child's campus. Or the resources could be found on our St. Lucie Public School website. And it could be in the form of local community agencies that help your child achieve success. You play a pivotal role in the life of your child or children, and as always, our aim is to support you. Today, our purpose is to give you tools and resources to navigate school transitions.
Today we are going to get started with one of our special guests, the wonderful Denise Rodriguez, the Executive Director of the Office of Teaching and Learning. We are excited to have her. Denise, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role that you play within St. Lucie Public Schools?
Well, thank you for inviting me today.
Yes, thank you.
I am the Executive Director of Teaching, Learning, and Leading, so I oversee all of those things.
Oh, that's a lot.
That is. And so that is within the Office of Teaching and Learning. And so we support our schools with curriculum, professional learning, and leadership development.
That's amazing.
And you've served many different roles within St. Lucie Public Schools outside of being an executive director. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Sure. I first started in St. Lucie Public Schools over 24 years ago as
You don't look a day over 24.
Well, thank you, Dejan. As an ESE teacher at St. Lucie West Middle School at the time, I then transitioned to be a reading coach at Fort Pierce Central High School, and then had the wonderful opportunity to open Treasure Coast High School as an assistant principal. I was then afforded the opportunity to lead Treasure Coast High School in the role of principal. Then transitioned into a district role within the Office of Teaching and Learning, really focusing in on professional development of our teachers and our leaders. And now this will be my third year now in the seat of Executive Director and supporting our schools in a different way.
Well, thank you so much again for being here. So today we're talking about all the different transitions that we go through as parents and we see our children go through. And the first big change we go through as parents and caregivers when it comes to school is the transition from VPK, or voluntary pre-kindergarten, which is typically half day, to a full day kindergarten. Now, I know this milestone very well. Parents are very nervous about this change, and I just recently had to go through this myself, and I was also very nervous. Yes. I remember
tears.
Yep, I had more so on my side. Yes,
Yeah.
but it is a big, big deal.
It is. And many of our parents are wondering, you know, what do they need to do as students are getting ready to enter kindergarten? What are some of the skills kindergarten teachers are looking for when those youngsters and also the youngsters' parents are walking in? What are the skills that they're looking for?
Definitely, you know, being able to work with our youngest students on that transition and what it will look like. At home, preparing our students through role play. How do I navigate self-advocacy? How do I learn to be able to share a toy? How do I be able to show my teacher that I have a need for an additional pencil? Or being able to really role play how to use your words effectively at school. That's a great way to be able to start that social skills component that is so important in that transition. And then in addition to being able to practice your math facts, being able to practice letter recognition, being able to practice those foundational skills at home and through shared events and shared practices and building background.
Oh, absolutely. And I would also say being able to listen to multi-step directions is huge. So for example, taking off a backpack, and then going and sitting down. That is so big for students to be able to do that in the classroom. So practicing at home is just, it's so helpful for them to be able to, it just leads to their academic success. And having, again, strong self-care skills. So being able to put on that jacket independently, wiping their nose, opening lunch containers, all of those are just such, you know, because then they can be independent and they're not needy for their teacher, you know, and having to ask for help. Again, it just kind of, they all connect. I also, again, remember, I taught K for a long time, so it's very passionate for me. Being able to stay on a task for 5 to 10 minutes, again, just if your child can do that going into kindergarten is so important. It just sets them up for success. And we have a great time during kindergarten. This was my son's favorite time of the day. He never wanted to leave if he hadn't gone into Play with Purpose. This is a great time of kindergarten day. Can you tell us a little bit more about Play with Purpose?
Sure. This is really an initiative that started after COVID, and we realized how important it is to have our students interact with each other and to be able to have those components of play. And so we have developed 13 units where our students can actively participate with a small group, and it's very centered on careers or themes. And so some of those themes are restaurant. So everybody has a different role on how to be able to function in that restaurant environment. So it's imaginative play. We also infuse literacy in that they read a book as background knowledge prior to getting into the actual play component. But it's a wonderful opportunity to expose our students at a very young age to our community, to careers, and then be able to interact, you know, together. So I can see why your son would like it so much.
Yeah. If I would say to him, hey, do you want me to pick you up early today? He would go, no, we have Play with Purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll see you. I'll see you at the and I wanted to touch on something you said, like using your words. I think that's so great for children to be able to advocate for themselves, but giving them the phrase of, hey, I need help, or can you help me with this? Giving them those words to use is also so huge, because sometimes they don't know, well, I don't know, I need help, but I don't know what to say. So giving them that language is so important. And the foundational skills, we know reading is just so important. Just reading at bedtime stories, it can be so small, just like as you tuck in, like, let's read a little story. But we have some changes in the curriculum for primary. Would you like to share a little bit about that as well?
Sure. We had a pilot 2 years ago now utilizing the UFly curriculum, and it's a very systemic approach to teaching kids phonics, which is, we know, is a foundation for early literacy. And so we've put it into our core program in kindergartens, grade 1 and grade 2 now. It's very interactive. Students are moving their letters, making their sounds. They're also writing sentences. And we've seen great success in our early literacy, and so we hope to be able to carry that all the way through. It was a big lift in teaching our teachers a new program, but many teachers have reported to us how great it is to see early literacy in our youngest students. And so that certainly sets them up for success as they move on in their academic career.
UFly has a lot of great parent resources as well, and we'll link those on our Families Matter website. I use a lot at home, and I can comment too, it is just so great to see the connection between home and school when you're using those resources, and watching my son just, I mean, all you can see, that's what's so great about kindergarten, is the light bulb is like visible. You can see it going off. And there's so many great books about starting kindergarten. So going to a local library, checking them out. So getting, like you said, really role playing and talking about it is so key. I loved, one of my favorites was Miss Bindergarten Goes to Kindergarten. And so that was one that we read all the time at home.
Because those foundational skills are so important. And speaking of foundational skills, we do have some resources that are available even during the summertime when learning is key. And so, Denise, can you talk with us a little bit about the resources that parents and also community partners have a chance to work with?
So this summer, just like last summer, we were very fortunate to be able to have these kits for our students. So kindergarten going into first grade, and then first grade going into second grade. We know how important it is to have that repeated practice of letter recognition, as well as early literacy and math as well. So every one of our students went home at the end of the summer with one of these kits. If there is one missing, feel free to contact the school. And you'll also need a whiteboard marker, and that was supplied as well, because many of the activities can be repeated and maybe even shared, and have older siblings working with younger siblings, or like you said, community agencies also have these kits as well. And so in addition to this, we've also revamped our Summer SOAR website.
Yes, I love it.
And so in the past, many parents may have heard of a summer slide. Well, we are a district on the rise, and so we wanted to reframe that to Summer SOAR. And so there are resources K through 12 that are accessible online, small activities for parents to be able to help both in, getting a student into a structure of learning, and to be extending learning as well. And there's also a community component there as well. So if parents are looking, or caregivers are looking for something to do in the summer, there's links to a lot of opportunities within our community.
I've checked out the Summer Source site.
They're amazing.
Amazing. So many great resources. I've done some at home with my son, and then we've checked out one of my favorites. It was a link to a zoo, and we watched a hippo. And like live. I'm like,
baby hippo.
Right. And so it just cultivated such great conversation, and then we could go and read books about a hippo. We could play zoo. They just created so many other great learning opportunities. So it's a great site. Again, we'll link that on our Families Matter. All great tips. And as we go through the summer and we head into open house season and back to school, we know that staying in touch with a teacher is so important, and keeping communication open will lead to a great success throughout the whole year, and not just 1 year, but all the years of a child's education. So going to open house and meeting the teachers is such a great way to see the campus and see familiar faces and places, and also establishing a strong morning and afternoon routine, which we kind of touched upon as well. So watch this short video on how to get those routines started at your home.
That was a wonderful video, and taking a look at all of the routines that were suggested, such as not only for elementary, but also for our middle, high school students who are driving on their own, making sure gas. Those are all some great tips that were there. And speaking as a former elementary school principal, I always have that in the back of my mind. I know that schools try to ease the challenges of going from one setting to another. Elementary campuses offer a transition camp to help ease this transition for families. Denise, can you tell us what some of the camps look like, and what are some examples of elementary transition camps to middle school?
Sure. So the very first transition camp is that kindergarten camp, and so we bring our youngest, students in to be able to meet their teacher, and then simultaneously parents are learning more about resources to support their student in the transition, being able to establish those routines, and students get to see their classroom, so that first day is less anxious than in other places. We do allow our parents to go the very first day to drop off their child.
Just the first day, Rebecca,
just the first day. And then after that, our kids are very independent and they are ready to go and get into that routine of school. And then the next transition is that middle school. And so we do have a number of K-8s. So students have more experience with the school structure and routine. But some of our students are going from pure elementaries to a middle school setting. And so we do have those transition days for our 6th graders. It is a big transition. Our students may have some changing of classrooms in 5th grade to get them ready for that larger experience in middle school. The students will now have 6 or 7 teachers during the day, potentially. So how do you navigate that? And so they want to be able to walk the kids through their schedule. Where will they get their lunch? How are they going to line up? Or what is the procedure when you're going to your next period class? So it's important, again, that's replicated in 9th grade because our kids are a little anxious about what to expect in a larger setting. And it grows exponentially too as more students are added to the school setting. So we want to make our students as comfortable as possible that we can welcome them into the environment, and then off to the races we go with their academics.
Absolutely.
I know middle school is such a magical time. I loved middle school. There was something special about going into 6th grade as a former 5th grade teacher. I loved it. It had that independence, but also a little fear factor going on as well. So it's fun. I remember teaching in middle school as well. So by the end of 5th grade, students understand how a school functions, and they have hopefully established a good network of friends and have supportive teacher relationships that help navigate them to reach their best potential. Then a lot of students, they start all over again when they transition to middle school. And for students leaving the traditional K through 5 elementary school, heading to middle school with 6 through 8, this means a lot of changes, right, Rebecca? And so now they have the more than 1 or 2 teachers, and you mentioned a lot of advice for families and a lot of advice for parents and also grandparents who are doing the transition. With 6th grade that has some potential anxiety, there are also other resources, and we have shared in past shows those resources. So we invite you families to visit our Families Matter website to check out those past shows that either have had our ESE team on to give you those resources as well. Going to middle school also means lots of fun opportunities and activities not once available at an elementary school. For example, being in sports and clubs. So with that comes increased independence and workload. How should families navigate sports, clubs, activities, all of those things?
Yes, definitely. So all of our schools, both K-8 and middle, do offer intramural sports and clubs. And it's a great way to get our kids connected to school. And when kids feel connected to school, they want to attend, they want to do well, they want to make those connections with their teachers, as you mentioned, and with their friends. And that really comes back with time management and scheduling, which I think even as adults we could, always do better in organization. So being able to have a family calendar that's available for all to see, being able to utilize electronic devices to be able to organize your events, setting timers, being able to say I'm going to spend this much time on an activity and then I will be able to transition into this other activity. And again, it's getting our kids exposed to lots of things in a different way, and they'll find maybe they like this particular sport or they don't. They're interacting with different students that they may not interact in their classes. And so again, key is organization, organization, organization.
And modeling all of that. And as always, it's super important to have Skyward Family access to be able to stay up to date with grades, tests, and attendance. If you need help with this, please check out our Families Matter website or reach out to your school's data specialist for more information.
Speaking about grades and all, students now will have to monitor and keep up with a lot more assignments for the different subjects. What tips do you have for families to help with that monitoring, and what's the best way for parents to communicate with teachers?
So thank you. So there are two different portals. Our students have access to Skyward, which is very important for them to monitor their classes and their assignments. And then there's another section for parents that has, you know, more detail about attendance and discipline. But sitting side by side with your student and saying, can you show me your where you're at with your grades and with your assignments, is certainly a huge opportunity to forge that relationship of being positive around school.
Absolutely.
And if you aren't pleased with a grade or if you are missing an assignment, how do we advocate for you as a student to start with your teacher? And so being able to provide the words of encouragement, let's talk to your teacher about this. But then on the side of the parent, you know, email communication, phone calls are always welcome to have that bridge between school and home. And then there's always student conferences, and that's a great way to come together for a student to see that there is a team that is around them to be successful. And that's what we want, is we want our students to be successful. And that starts with communication from home to school, school to home.
Yeah, and we talk about that teamwork all the time on Families Matter, because that's the goal, is being a team. And we know that in middle school there's a big shift with peer dynamics. Do you have any insight or advice for families as that changes? Because that's a big change with middle schoolers.
Talk to your students, talk to your students, talk to your students. Be involved. Sometimes you'll notice a change in their behavior, and you know, they're lashing out at the safest person that they may have in their life.
Absolutely.
And really the root may be they're not sure how to navigate a peer relationship. And so being able to have those conversations in the car, or being able to have those conversations at dinner, hey, what's going on? And then being able to have that trust factor between parent and student to say, oh, well, have you thought about this? Or maybe you could approach it this way. What do you think about maybe, you know, again, modeling those structures, whether it be, you know, little kindergartners all the way through teenagers, and being able to say, have you thought about this situation? Maybe you could verbalize it in this manner. And that's all being able to provide our students with that, the words, like we've said before, to be successful in a social setting as well as in the academics.
Absolutely.
In middle school and especially high school, it's a great time to start helping your child with study tips, showing them how to organize by either using a digital planner or paper planner, and talking about safety on the internet and interacting with social media. We have a show dedicated to technology, so we encourage you to watch it.
Yeah, to give it, it's a good watch, yes.
Yes.
And it's super important as you transition your child to high school to know the graduation requirements. So from the start of 9th grade, so don't wait to senior year, starting as a freshman, you and your family, you need to know what is needed to get to the finish line for high school graduation. All these requirements are listed on our St. Lucie Public School website, or you and your child can talk with your child's counselor. Having a good relationship with them is a great tip for success. Knowing the ins and outs of your child's high school, being the attendance policy, schedules, what after-school programs are available, is just another great tip for success. Moving through all these changes can be hard and can bring up a lot of big feelings in our littlest learners to our biggest. And it's important as a parent to help co-regulate these feelings and help them work through them with a lot of patience and understanding. Our show on mental health has a lot of great tips when it comes to co-regulating. Be sure to give it a check out on our Families Matter website. Your teens will want more independence, so encourage them by letting them take more responsibility at home and school, but continue to offer support and guidance. We want to welcome a dear friend of Families Matter, Miss Deb Wuest. She is the Director of Nutrition Services, and she is here to share some exciting updates for us as we head into the new school year. So thank you so much for being here again.
Thank you, Deb. And you know, school nutrition, what is going on in the world of school nutrition? And you know, when I'm out and about in the community, I hear questions about free and reduced lunch, especially right now during the summertime when kids are out, they're going to camp and they're coming back hungry and opening up the refrigerator. So what's happening in the world?
I tell you what, it's an exciting time and it's a very busy time. So we're revving up for that new school year. And there's so much information that the parents need to know in order to make sure that their child gets a breakfast and gets a lunch. What are the programs that are available through our school meals program? So one of the things that is very important is that some schools, all schools receive breakfast at no cost. So that is really, really
oh my
good.
gosh, that's amazing to hear.
We do have some schools that receive lunch at no cost as well. And those are our schools that are identified as a community eligibility provision school. And those schools will be listed on our website as to the schools that receive breakfast and lunch at no cost. Now, the other schools that are not identified as a community eligibility provision school, they have meal applications and they go by who is free, reduced, and paid.
So what do parents need to know about that school lunch application?
Well, it's real important that the application the application processing period starts July 1st. So it's important to get that meal application completed prior to the school year, because then that way we have the application all up to date prior to school starting, and this child is at the right status. Now, we recognize that sometimes families can't get that application done, but they have to get it done within the first 30 days, because then we roll over to a new school year and they could end up being paid, and that's when all those charges start revving up.
Absolutely, good to know.
And you had mentioned there are all schools receive free breakfast, and there are some schools that receive meals at no cost. Where would parents find that information to be able to know, is my child eligible for both free breakfast and lunch?
We'll have the list of the school sites that are identified as receiving meals at no cost for both breakfast and lunch. Those are located out on our website.
And we'll link that to our Families Matter website as well.
Absolutely.
So in the past, snacks and special treats were available a la carte. Is that something that's going to continue in the cafeterias?
Absolutely. We always offer some meals out, our snacks and a la carte items that the kids really enjoy. We offer those outside of a reimbursable meal. However, we really need parents to make sure that that child has money on their account, because they cannot charge anything that's outside of a reimbursable meal. That has to be paid either from money on an account or cash through the serving line.
And that's good information to know, because we have Skyward, which many of our families are connected to, and we'll be able to find out, does my child have money on his or her account? So how can the parent or family utilize Skyward in order to check balances for what's being served in the cafeteria, as well as how much is on the account?
The Family Access Portal is a one-stop shop,
really is.
for everything.
Yes.
And food service plays a part of that. So if the parent has their own account, they cannot use the child's account. They have to use their own account. And then they select the food service tab. They can make payments to their child's account, and they can also see what the child is eating. So it's real important. Then they can connect to see, hey, are they really getting a good meal?
Absolutely.
Wait a minute, you can check out what your child is eating.
Awesome.
So
Great
are
knowledge
you just
for
getting
parents.
like chips the whole time?
Yeah,
or are you really
exactly.
having your fruit and vegetables? That's good to know. That is good to know.
And those menus for what's going to be selected every day, where could you find those?
You can find those out on the Child Nutrition website. There will be a link to the menus, and it is identified by all schools. Each school has their own menu.
Oh, that's
It's the same menu across the board, across the district. However, each school has its own menu. The great thing about that, it identifies any allergies that the menu items have. And you know, I'm really, really proud in St. Lucie County. We cook from scratch, and
That's awesome.
so many other school districts don't. But looking at the menu, reviewing the menu items with your child, and seeing what type of ingredients are in the menu items is so important to so many parents. So that's the best area to go find that information.
Great bonding time too. Picking out what you're going to have for lunch or breakfast. And as we know, we talk about it all the time, having a good full belly really helps making sure that our brain is focused and ready.
Parents and our families are wanting to know, what do I need to do in order to get ready for getting back to school? How can they find out that that information?
We have created a back to school checklist
Oh,
that is going to be
very helpful.
located on our website. We'll make sure that each of the schools have this checkoff list. It goes through completing the meal application, putting money on the account, teaching your child their lunch number,
so
because
important.
that's really important. That's used in other areas of the school.
What a great tool. So we'll make
Yes.
sure that it's on our website as
Yes.
well. Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, Deb, for being with us today. This is such important information. And again, like we've talked about, being full is ready. It just keeps our children ready to learn. And that's
Well,
the
thank
goal.
you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Once again, we have had a great show, Rebecca. We want to say a very special thank you to our experts, both Deb Wuest and Denise Rodriguez. And if you have missed any of our shows, please tune in to WLX Horizon to watch it, catch up, and feel connected. Check out our St. Lucie Public Schools social media outlets for our next show. Next month, we're dedicating our show to a community spotlight, St. Lucie Public Schools' very own Education Foundation. Remember, all families matter in St. Lucie Public Schools.